So next up, we have Dr. Kath Halliday. And Kath is a pediatric radiologist who I think came to fame when she did the GRIFT report. So she basically went around, I think, like 143 hospitals, where she basically was looking at the getting it right first time and looking, it was a kind of very comprehensive report card on a department. I don't know if you heard, you know, Ofsted or whatever talking about the schools reporting, was it a good thing to do it or a bad thing to do about how good schools are. In reality, we need to know how good our radiology departments are. We need to know that we're getting it right first time. We need to know that we could, and we need to hear examples of good practice from other departments. So the great thing about Kath is that she asks questions, and most importantly, she listens to the answers. And I think I've had a few interactions with Kath. It's just always been absolutely delightful. She just wants to be informed, wants to hear what's going on. So please speak to her at coffee and tell her about your concerns or what you think is good, bad, etc. She will listen and she will do something about it. So Kath, we are always privileged at this meeting to have the president of the college with us. And so we're delighted to hear, I don't know what the title of your talk is, the State of the Nation, Aims for the College. So Kath, thank you so much for coming along.
Thanks. You want me to put this on? Thanks so much. What a privilege it is to be here. Great talk so far. Sue, so interested in imposter syndrome. No stranger to that, I can tell you. And never in all my born days did I imagine that I would be here one day talking to you as president of the college. But I have got to an age where I am able to offer a little bit of advice, so you can just turn off now if you want to, you younger radiologists. All along, I've been very fortunate in my career, but one of the things that I look back, one of my regrets is I haven't really enjoyed it as much as I should have done sometimes, because I'm thinking, oh, I don't deserve to be here. You know, the imposter syndrome, that's what it can do to you. And my advice to you is enjoy the ride. Even if you don't deserve to be, even if I don't deserve to be here, it's great. I am certainly going to enjoy this ride, and I really do. So thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the college. I've only been there since September. Yeah, the things that first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do, what the college is there to do for you. First of all, it's not just about the UK. It's now a global institution, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So essentially, what we're there to do is advocate on your behalf. And so we want to be the go-to people for the government, thank you. No, it's not working, but shall I just do it here? Maybe that's a better thing to do. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, fine.
Fine now. Yeah, it's fine.
Brilliant, thank you. So also training and education. I mean, that's a huge part of our work, of course. The exams in clinical oncology and clinical radiology. Exams is a huge, huge growth area for us. Our FRCR has absolutely huge standing in the world. Massive demand for it everywhere. We just can't meet it, actually. And so we're very lucky to have such a great product. And any of you, I would advise you to get involved. I've been speaking to all the examiners recently. It's one of the most important parts of the college, as you know. They've nearly all said to me, it's the best thing I have ever done. They love it. Still having trouble?
Sharing the slide again, sorry.
So beyond that, we also, advise on professional practice matters, give guidance and that sort of thing, and set standards. So the college has got much bigger recently, and we now have about 100 staff there. And we've got a particularly big external affairs department who help us interact with politicians, with the media. I never really understood all of this before, but to get opportunities with the media, basically you have to create these relationships, and then they come to you for advice about things. And so we have a whole sort of department of people who are busy creating those opportunities for us. In order to do that, in order to have something to offer people, we need to have data. And one of our best bits of data is the census. The workforce census has 100% response rate, which doesn't just happen. I mean, everybody is very good at responding, but actually there's a whole army of people who are busy chasing up all the time to get people to respond. And 100% response rate gives us real power. We really know what's happening with the workforce. And each year we expand it and move it on according to our priorities. And we'll come back to that a few times. But when we launched that, we had, at the end of 1 week, we had over 480 pieces in the media about that. So that's a huge thing. That really brings us to the fore, really brings us into focus. And I think we're already on a little bit of a natural advantage, because since the pandemic, people seem to, for the first time in ever my career, people understand that diagnostics and radiology is a thing. Previously, and there still is, I think, had my scan, that's fine. I've had my scan, the results should be there. The fact that there is another step that we're involved is something that's not necessarily that visible to people. We've had lots and lots of press coverage, been interviewed by lots of papers, and we've been in all the broad, both about cancer, and those ones are mainly about cancer, but also about diagnostics. We've had lots of meetings with health ministers and lots of politicians. I'm meeting the deputy health ministers next week again, mentions in lots of parliamentary debates. We go on about the workforce plan a lot, along with everybody else, and I thought we were making some headway, but it still doesn't, it's still a bit elusive, isn't it, the NHS workforce plan? Both parties are fully committed to it. It's just not actually here. We've also set up a new APPG, which is an all-party parliamentary group. So as the name implies, members of parliament from all parties get together and talk about important issues. The diagnostics one, we are the secretariat, so we basically look after it with the Royal College of Pathologists, and they're intending to have some round tables to talk about community diagnostic hubs, to talk about AI, and basically raise the profile. They can then get us more parliamentary questions, get publications, just generally get more exposure with Parliament. Many more politicians are now much more aware of us and interested, and we're hoping very much, and it certainly seems to be that way, that we're much more of the go-to people about things. So we try and link that in with other, every week has a special day of some sort now, doesn't it? It's always something awareness. And we try and connect our stuff in with World Stroke Day or Bowel Cancer Day. The Bowel Cancer Week, they apparently have a blow-up bowel cancer or blow-up colon in the Houses of Parliament. I'm very excited about it. And I think you have polyps and things that hang down like kind of punch bags, and you can run through it. and pop one off. It sounds quite great, doesn't it? So we are, of course, 4 nations within the UK, so we aim for all parliaments and to engage in all of those. Social media, we've got a person and several people who now put lots of stuff out on social media for us all the time, mainly Twitter and LinkedIn. Twitter very, very active in the health service. I'm still a bit of a novice with Twitter and mainly restrict myself to retweeting things that people have given me. There's also a big vogue for lighting up your building in different colors for different things. So we do that quite a lot. So one of the things that's changing about medicine generally and particularly in radiology is actually the makeup of our workforce. More and more international medical graduates, and that's true across all specialties. But now, in radiology, 60% of our applicants for ST1 are international medical graduates, which is fantastic for us because there are a lot of specialty training schemes that actually can't get enough people to apply. We still have at least 5 applicants for every one of our training posts. So that's fabulous. And to be able to attract, you know, the best people from across the world is just such a privilege, and it explains why we've got such a thriving and generally stimulating community. We don't have the data on the number of consultant applicants, but 19% of our consultant appointments in 2022 got their primary medical qualification abroad. So this is changing across all specialties. If you look at that slide, tells you the proportion of the consultant workforce and where they got their primary medical degree, and you can see just gradually the darker ones are non-EU. And just gradually increasing there. The other thing that we're seeing more of now in radiology is SAS doctors, specialist doctors. We didn't used to have very many of those in radiology, but those posts are now much more popular. And there's a variety of reasons why people take up those posts. The thing that you need to know, I think we all need to understand though, is people who qualify abroad don't tend to stay in the workforce as long. So this statistic that in 2021, 53% of those international medical graduates who joined in 2013 had left the medical workforce. Now, obviously it may be that people leave because they always intended to leave. You know, they didn't intend to stay very long. Well, you know, or you want to go home, why not? What many of us have all worked abroad and then come back again. But there may be other reasons for that, and we need to think about that. 16% of our radiology workforce left during that time as well. So we do have a slight retention problem, and that is slightly higher than other specialties, actually. Also, locums, we have more and more locums in our workforce than previously. So we have a generally more transient workforce than we've had before. In terms of ethnicity, we have slightly fewer white British than other medical specialties, but not many. And then the next biggest one is Asian, and then Black African is still very, very, very small in all medical specialties. So we have a lot of international medical graduates in our workforce, but things are not great in that if you look at this, it's MRES data. I don't know, I feel as if this data doesn't get out enough, actually, the MRES data. It's the Medical Workforce Racial Equality Standard. And what that shows is that whilst the proportion of Black and minority ethnic doctors is growing within our workforce and also within our management, that there is still real challenges to overcome. White applicants are more likely to be appointed from shortlisting than Black and minority ethnic, and 16% of Black and minority ethnic staff reported experiencing discrimination at work. So we've really got some work to do, particularly since this is a very large proportion of our workforce. And I think there are things that we all need to understand here about some of the things, again, that Sue was talking about feeling a sense of belonging and we need to create a sense of belonging for all our staff. So at the college, we've got a newly reshaped Equality and Diversity Committee, where we're looking at high-level oversight and the regulatory review. We're looking at all our data, and actually we get quite good data, particularly from the GMC around training, and it gives us granular data about number of appointments, how people get on in their assessments, how people get on in their exams, by race, a bit by sexual orientation and disability. So we're getting much more data now, and we're able to look at that and look at places where people are doing it well. I think, you know, what should we do as a college? And, you know, there are many colleges that have produced very big sort of shiny reports and things, but actually, what is it we want to achieve? And I think it's about, first of all, understanding what the problem is and looking at what data we have. But you can spend forever collecting data when you actually know you've got a problem. And so we need to also concentrate on the things that really matter. And I think if we're going to create this sense of belonging, we need to start understanding what it's like to be in somebody else's skin. And so what we need to do at the college is to create a community, create a place where people can speak, where we can get together and we can start to understand each other. And we need to work out how to do that. One of the things that's been shown to be very helpful in terms of getting rid of some of these discrepancies and helping people from whatever different background they come is a focus on mentoring. And we intend to really improve our mentoring offering at the college. RadReach has been very successful. Our mentoring offering to students and in conjunction with HexRep. So in RadReach, we have both 26 mentees and 26 mentors, and the third cohort is opening soon. So it's been very, very successful, and everybody who's been involved in it has been very, very positive about it, both mentors and mentees. And I think that's the thing about mentoring, actually, that the mentors get as much out of it as the mentees. So if anybody's interested in getting involved in RadReach, do contact us at the college. A little word about women in radiology, about the same over the years. Maybe far back, Sue, but you know, but over the recent years, the proportion of women has stayed about the same. So this is more census data we've got here. We need to start thinking about retention of our staff. We've talked a lot about workforce generally, and you'll have heard us going on about this endlessly. We've got lots of new training numbers. We've been very successful in radiology in doing that. But we do have a problem in that people are still leaving. So we've mentioned international medical graduates leaving, maybe because they intended to, maybe because they're not being made as welcome as they could be. But this is about our older consultants, very important to me, obviously. And we have an increased number of consultants leaving the workforce and a decline in the average age at which they do so. So the average age at which consultants are leaving the workforce now is 51. 51. A veritable child. And and there's a few places where we're going to be very, very short in the near future. So a lot about, if you look at 60, about 20% of our consultant workforce are due to retire in the next 5 years. But if we look at 51, God knows how many it is. So we do have a bit of a problem with that. And so when we're looking at retention, I mention older colleagues because that actually seems to be quite important. Now, obviously, recently, there's been the whole pension thing, which has been really encouraging people to retire. I'm really hoping that the budgetary changes will change that. But of course, now the Labour government, or the proposed Labour government, are saying that actually they might bring it back. It might actually accelerate people retiring when they're around retirement age. So, you know, I don't think that one's quite gone away yet. But what is it that we can do to try and persuade people to stay in the workforce? And actually, a lot of this not just about older colleagues. A lot of this is about everyone. Everyone wants to have a little bit of flexibility. How long have I got, Fiona? Great. So a little bit of flexibility in their life. Everybody wants to have some control over their lives. And I think this is something we've lost, particularly with junior doctors. The rotas are so difficult to manage, aren't they? You can't, you know, you hear about people having to work for weeks and weeks to get time off to get married and things like that. People can't take holiday. And we need to get back to some sort of flexibility. Nobody wants to work like that. On call. This one, when I was a clinical director, there was a lot of discussion about that, about whether people over a certain age should not be on the on-call rota. I mean, in fact, in most DGHs now, there isn't much on-call, to be honest. Most of the radiology at night gets outsourced. I personally didn't really agree that after a certain age, you should not have to work evenings and weekends. When I started being a clinical director, there were a whole load of people who just worked Tuesday to Thursday. And so, you know, you had about double the number of consultants in the department on Tuesday to Thursday, and it just doesn't work for the service. So I think, you know, we need to think a bit more creatively. We did some things around saying, well, the older consultants maybe did sessions at the weekend or Friday nights or things like that. Some sort of slightly unattractive ones, but not necessarily staying up all night because they found that very difficult. And something, again, we've touched on earlier, other roles increase your longevity. If you just sit there at the coalface day after day after day, churning through CTs, churning through, you know, plain films, whatever you do, you won't last long, honestly. It's too much. You need to do something different. Do something different. It can be teaching, it can be getting involved with the college, mentoring. There'll be lots of opportunities there in the future. You know, getting involved with education, with real. I mentioned real particularly radiology events and learning, because I think we've got a great deal to offer the rest of the medical profession around this. One thing I notice, and one thing that leads to people leaving, is making mistakes, the fear of doing something wrong. I don't think we prepare our medical students or our junior doctors for the fact that they will make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We all make absolute howlers, and a lot of minor ones as well. It's something that's not really acknowledged in the medical profession. But of course, because we're radiologists and our mistakes are there with a red flashing light on top of it every time. And, you know, when they used to be up on the Shenanda, it's a word most of you won't even know what it is, but, you know, we used to put x-rays up on the Shenanda. And every time you walked past a room and you'd missed something, it was always up there and somebody was always discussing it on an MDT. And, you know, so we know about making mistakes. We know about being humble. And we also know that if we work on this together and we sit in a room and everybody looks at these mistakes, we learn from them. Junior staff understand that senior staff also make big mistakes. And we all grow as a result of it. And I think we have a lot to teach the rest of the medical profession here. And I think as seniors, particularly, we have a lot to bring to that party, to bring people through those difficult times. So, okay, 5 minutes, be quick. Global, being global. The thing about being global and having a global presence is it improves patient care generally and supports doctors. I mean, that goes without saying. We've got good offerings. We're really lucky, aren't we? We have a 5-year training scheme, a great exam. You know, when we come out of the end of that, we know that we're really something. We're a great radiologist. But lots of places don't have that. Lots of places only have 2 or 3 years training. So if we can offer support to the rest of the world, that's great. Share a bit of our good fortune. If we're a larger college, that also enhances our reputation and our influence at home. If we are a global player, that means we are taken more seriously here in the UK, and that's quite important. There's a hierarchy of the Royal Colleges. If somebody wants to know something, they go to the physicians, the surgeons, the GPs, the big guys. Then there's a kind of second tier, also based on size. And we're probably sort of obs and gynae, psychiatrists. We're probably third tier, I'd say. But the bigger we get, the more influence we have. So that is good for us. And also, our global work has great advantages for the UK workforce. So about 30% of our members are outside the UK. It's quite difficult to tell because people move around. We have dense clusters in certain places, a lot in India, Hong Kong, Malaysia. So many of you were involved in our global congress in Dubai, which was very successful. Everybody really enjoyed it. A mixed faculty, which was very, very interesting, from people from all over the world giving their experience. We've also recently been to Amritsar to the IRIA 75th annual conference, where we had a real symposium, and that was very interesting because I think the culture in India is very much that you know, one doesn't make mistakes. And so it was very liberating, I think, to have that session there. Big demand for our exams, as I've mentioned. We have new exam hubs across the globe, and the number of examiners is increasing. When it comes to people coming to the UK to work, we have many options for people to come and join us. As ST1, I've mentioned, ST3 recruitment now. So people come with either their FRCR Part 1 or their 2A, and they can come in and then PCT after another couple of years of training. Sorry, is it time I finished? And also on the Global Radiologists Programme, people can come as consultants as well, and usually just stay for a while and then go back, but it's very, very helpful. So, and coming now, okay, right, last thing, AI. AI, a big focus for us, and we want to be the go-to people for people to talk to about AI, and there are many, many things we're doing in that arena. So, a few other things we do. Sorry, I went on. There you go. Thank you.